welcome back to today's The Hindu Analysis, and today's date is 17th of December 2021. So I am here to discuss few important articles of today's newspaper. Is the first one: India marked 50 years of 1971 war. So this is a historical point of view. This news is very important, and in GS paper one you have us to study India since independence. So India commemorated 50 years of its victory in the 1971 liberation war of Bangladesh. So 1971 was the year when Bangladesh got independence from, it was previously known as East Pakistan. Now it was free from the Pakistan and became a new country called Bangladesh. So what was the Bangladesh Liberation War? So Bangladesh Liberation War referred to the armed uprising and revolution driven by Bengali nationalists in 1971 in a bid to gain independence and self-determination for Bangladesh, which was then under the called East Pakistan. Now, the movement was against the exploitative and hegemonic rule of West Pakistan over the culturally and geographically separate East Pakistan, both part of Pakistan. So, attempts to wipe out Bengali language from administrative and educational usage, the political thwarting of Bengali nationalist voices, and overall suppression of Bengali culture fueled anger in Bangladesh, leading to call for secessions. Now, in this context, Pakistan had declared Urdu as its national language and refused repeated calls to make Bengali the second national language. So this helped mobilize the Awami League and gave further fillip to Bengali nationalist movement. So the 1970 election were a key turning point in the history of Bangladesh. The Awami League and led by Sheikh Mujabir Rahman swept the election by his party, was not allowed to form the government, and West Pakistan imposed martial law in Bangladesh. So Bangladeshi nationalists fought the Pakistani and Islamist militia with its guerrilla army led by Mukti Bahini. So what was the role of India under this India's role in the war? Throughout the Bangladesh Liberation War, India lent economic, military, as well as diplomatic support to the Bengali nationalists. The Border Security Force of India played a major role in arming, training, and supporting the Mukti Bahini, especially the guerrilla war techniques. In the face of the genocidal campaign launched by the Pakistani forces against the people of Bangladesh, in 1971, about 10 million refugees had come to India and they were accommodated in camps in border area. It also fought for Bangladesh on the diplomatic front. Okay, India used track 1 and track 2 diplomacies to internationalize the Bangladesh issue and promote international sympathy and support for Bangladesh. So India's 1971 war that was celebrated as the 50 years, the Bangladesh Liberation war, also known as the Bangladesh War of Independence, marked 50 years of the 1971 Indo-Pakistan War. So India formally joined the Bangladesh War after the Pakistan Air Force carried out preemptive strikes on Indian Air Force bases. The Pakistani strikes were the beginning of the armed hostility between the India and Pakistan, which culminated in the fall of Dhaka on December 16 and the liberation of Bangladesh. So on December 16, 1971, the over 92,000 West Pakistani soldiers, sailors, airmen, paramilitary personnel, policemen, and civilians surrendered to India in East Pakistan after 13 days of the war. Now, next important article is WTO challenge to MSP is another frontier to cross. Now, in this case, we'll talk about the demand of farmers to provide a legal guarantee for the minimum support price for their produce has triggered a debate. So can India provide a legal guarantee for MSP without violating its international law obligation enshrined in the agreement on agriculture of the WTO? Now, how is the MSP determined? The minimum support price was the first introduced by the government in 1966-67 for wheat in the wake of the Green Revolution. So it was introduced with the aim to save the farmer from depleting profits. The government buy the crops at the MSP if the price go down after harvest. This helps the farmer indirectly. The government decided the MSP after taking into consideration the recommendation of the cabinet. This is called a CSCP, which is for recommend the minimum support price. Okay, the opinion of the state government and all other related ministries. The price support scheme for oilseeds and pulses is implemented by the Department of Agriculture and cooperative through National Agriculture Cooperative Marketing Federation of India. And the National Agriculture Cooperative Marketing Federation of India is a nodal procurement agency for oil seeds and pulses. Thus, when the prices of oil seeds, cotton, and pulses fall below the MSP, this is called National Agriculture Cooperative Marketing Federation of India purchase it from the farmer at MSP. The procurement prices are usually announced at the beginning of the sowing season. So this way, the CSCP tends to have a very wide area of responsibility in the economic affair of the country. The critical analysis of the legal backing of MSP. What are the farmers' demand on MSP? So MSP calculated using the National Commission for Farmers Suggested C2 plus 50% methodology. C2 is the total cost of computation that includes capital assets as well as unused rent and interest on owned property. So if private purchasers do not buy their crops, the government must be willing to buy the whole surplus at MSP pricing. So allow that ensures that all the farmers receive fair pricing. MSP to be extended to fruit and vegetable farmers. So arguments in favor of the legal backing of MSP. MSP legal status will ensure that all farmers are protected against the price rise. It will ensure that farmer food is purchased at the declared MSP, either directly or through private players. So MSP will be required to cover all crops and all producers in order to guarantee the right to MSP. So argument against the legal backing of MSP, economic theory as well as the experience imply that the price level that is not supported by the demand and supply cannot be sustained by legal methods. So this writes Niti Ayog agriculture economist Ramesh Chand in policy study. So if MSP become a legal right, procurement will be skyrocket in terms of volume. So it may be result in the formation of vast black market in which small dealers buy grains from farmer in unofficial ways. So legalizing MSP will have an influence on the country's macroeconomic perspective by raising the chance of an unexpected surge in inflation. So MSP is classified as one of the bad subsidy by the WTO since it has an impact on the market. So India's subsidizing program will spark outrage among developed countries also. The center indicate that states are allowed to guarantee MSP rates if they desired, but it also provide two instances of policy that have failed. One example is that sugar industry where private mills failed to make full payment to farmers, resulting in thousands of crore in unpaid dues that had been accumulating for years. Another example is the 2018 Maharashtra legislation modification that penalizes the traders who buy crops below MSP with severe fines and prison sentences. The subsidies under the WTO provide a mandate agreement on agriculture. Okay, so one of the central objectives of the agreement on agriculture is to cut trade distortion, the domestic support that WTO member country provide to agriculture. So mechanisms follow the domestic subsidies are divided into three categories. One is called green box measures, contained in non-market distorting subsidies like income support to farmer decoupled with production. Blue box measures subsidies that limit production by means of assigning quotas or other mechanisms like direct payment under the production limiting programs subject to certain conditions. And amber box measures are considered non-trade distorting. It includes the price support provided in the form of procurement of crops at MSP. It is subject to certain limits. Now, agreement on a measurement of support to measure amber box support, WTO member countries are required to compute EMS. It is the total product specific support and non-product specific support. So under Article 6.4 Clause B of the Agreement on Agriculture, developing countries such as India are allowed to provide a minimum level of product and non-product domestic subsidy. This de minimis limits is capped at 10% of the total value of the production of the product in case of product specific subsidy and at 10% of the total value of country's agricultural production in case of non-product subsidy. So subsidies breaching the de minimis cap are trade distorting. Consequently, they have be accounted for the MSM. So what are the issues related with the peace clause? Peace clause, high subsidies seem to be distorting global trade. The peace clause protects the developing countries' food procurement program against the action from the WTO members in case subsidies ceiling are breached. In the month of April 2020, India informed the WTO that the value of India's rice production was 43.6 billion in 2018, and India had given a subsidy worth 5 billion. So India was the first country to invoke the peace clause for breaching the subsidy limit for rice for the marketing year 2018-19. The limit is fixed at 10% of the value of the production. In the case of India and other developing countries, European Union, United States of America, Japan, Canada, Brazil, and Prague have cautioned India for invoking the World Trade Organization peace clause for exceeding the ceiling on the support it can offer its farmer for rice. The European Union has asked India for the information on the products covered by the public stock holding program to assure that only rice support exceed the limits. So conclusion, we can say that therefore India need to recalibrate its agriculture support program to make use of the flexibilities available in agreement on agriculture. India can move away from price-based support in the form of MSP to income-based support, which will not be trade distorting under the agreement on agriculture, provided the income support is not linked to production. Thus, the government need to be engaged with the farmer and create an affable environment to convince them for the effective policy intervention beyond MSP that are fiscally prudent and WTO compatible. So this is all for today's news article. We'll meet you tomorrow to discuss tomorrow's newspaper article in detail. Thank you, everybody. Good night.